Greetings to you. While some nations have earned a reputation for being confident and competent, Zimbabwe is notorious for its hen's teeth tails. Every time something fishy happens in Zimbabwe, Mnangagwa and his cronies are on the phone, or better still, are off on a hired luxury jet, placating AU and SADC leaders with a far-fetched explanation of what happened. His Excellency, the President, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, today, Saturday, spent the day at his Mtapa offices, from where he made contacts with a number of heads of state and government from the region and continent. George Charamba, the presidential spokesman, said in a statement. These leaders have been lied to so many times, they must now really dread receiving a call or envoy from Mnangagwa. They are lies, and then they are dumb lies. And the leaders must feel insulted that they expected to believe them all. A year ago, SADC and AU leaders had an earful of Mnangagwa's tale of the November 2017 military coup, which he, Mnangagwa, insisted was not a coup, but a military-assisted transition. He insisted that Zimbabwe was no longer a pariah state, but a democratic nation, and he even promised to hold free, fair, and credible elections to prove it. He then went on to blatantly rig the elections. 3 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora were denied the vote. During his UN trip a few weeks after the elections, Mnangagwa assured everyone Zimbabweans in the diaspora will vote next time. Proof they could have voted if the regime had wanted them to vote. The regime failed to release something as basic as a verified voters roll and stubbornly refused to make public many V11 forms. These are the forms with a summary of votes each candidate received, although these are legal requirements. The EU Election Observer Mission reported of the numerous errors in the ZEC result and that the figures could not be verified and traced. Many aspects of the 2018 elections in Zimbabwe failed to meet international standards, they concluded the report. Mnangagwa ignored all these documented flaws and illegalities in the election process and insisted the elections were free, fair, and credible. He declared his electoral victory was legitimate and that he had the democratic mandate to govern. He dispatched the usual envoys to solicit congratulatory messages and the support. The country's security services shot and killed 7 unarmed civilians on the 1st of August in a move to preempt the threat of serious protests over yet another ZANU-PF rigged elections. The regime launched a diplomatic charm offensive. Mnangagwa assured everyone he would appoint a commission of inquiry to investigate what happened. In due course, the Motlanthe Commission was launched, but it failed to establish who issued the shoot-to-kill order. It was a complete whitewash and a waste of time and money. Before the ink of the Motuli Commission report was dry, Zimbabwe had yet another serious public order incident in which the security services personnel once again used excessive force and behaved like bandits and hooligans. The regime has defended the police and the army's barbarism and has dispatched the usual envoys with the usual hen's teeth tail to tail. The prime objective was for him to brief his colleagues on the situation obtaining in the country following the opposition instigated violent demonstrations which affected the country 2 weeks ago, explained George Charamba. He also received reports from returning special envoys he had dispatched to selected countries in the region and on the African continent for the same mission. The Americans, the EU, the UN, and many other nations have condemned the barbarism of this ZANU-PF dictatorship. There is the AU summit coming up soon, and this Mnangagwa regime would be tossed if the continental body was to stand up for justice and the downtrodden and condemn the regime. AU leaders are renowned for their indifference to the suffering of the common people in support of a fellow African leader. Still, there's been the odd occasion when even this toothless dog has been roused into action. Mnangagwa would remember the 2008 Zimbabwe elections when both SADC and AU refused to endorse the ZANU-PF election victory following the blatant cheating and wanton violence by ZANU-PF, led by none other than Mnangagwa himself. Both the regional and continental bodies know only too well the depths of depravity Mnangagwa will sink to just to retain his iron grip on power. Zimbabwe is in such an economic mess, it is just a matter of time before the people are out again demanding an end to their economic suffering. There is no way Zimbabweans are going to be cowered into silence. Human beings will never suffer and die quietly like sheep in a slaughterhouse. Sooner or later, even the indifferent AU and SADC leaders will be moved to act. Mr. Mnangagwa, you can fool some people every time. You can fool everyone sometimes, but you can never fool everyone every time. Yes, not even you and your army of spin doctors, apologists, and propagandists can do that. The people of Zimbabwe are crying for meaningful political change so that they can have free, fair, and credible elections. After 38 years of corrupt, tyrannical rule and rigged elections, they are asking for a meaningful say in the governance of the country. Surely, that is not too much to ask. Thank you for listening.